Hello and welcome to Times Now. I'm Malvika Jain and I have with me Representative Arvind Venkat. He's a member of the House of Representatives in the state of Pennsylvania, a key swing state. It is often said that whoever wins the state of Pennsylvania wins the US presidential elections. And that is why both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have been aggressively campaigning in this state until the D-Day. Representative, welcome to Times Now. My first question to you is that we are in the midst of the presidential elections in the US. Tomorrow is the formal voting day. Early voting has already been taking place. Pennsylvania is a key state. It's a swing state. You have Trump and Harris both aggressively campaigning in the state of Pennsylvania. What makes it so unique? And what has been the role of the Indian American community? You are a part of the Indian American community. What do you see as its contributions?
Thanks for having me on your news show. Pennsylvania is critical because under the United States electoral process, which is really based on the number of votes cast within each state, Pennsylvania is the largest swing state within the United States. And so essentially, who wins Pennsylvania will likely win the presidency. I'm very fortunate to be a state representative in Pennsylvania. I'm the first Indian American to serve in our state house in the over 200-year history of Pennsylvania. And the Indian American community and the South Asian community in general within Pennsylvania is extraordinarily critical. When we look at the recent electoral history in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania by less than 1% of the vote in 2016. Joe Biden won Pennsylvania by a little over 80,000 votes, or about 1% of the vote in 2020. There are close to 200,000 Indian Americans in Pennsylvania, and there's probably another 75 to 100,000 more other South Asians in Pennsylvania. So really, the South Asian community, the Asian American community overall, is the margin of difference within the electorate within this key state.
And who are they supporting? Who are the Indian Americans supporting? Are they supporting Harris or Trump?
So I don't want to speak in generalities, but if you look at polling, the Indian American community is one of the most democratically inclined communities within Pennsylvania and across the United States. It's probably close to 70% of the Indian American population that by polls is voting for Kamala Harris. The Asian American community is, similar, but not quite as overwhelmingly Democratic.
But Trump has been trying to actively reach out to Indian Americans. You are a Democrat, but is there any factors that are making you insecure and making you believe that some voters, the Indian American voters who have typically voted for the Democratic Party, may lean towards Donald Trump?
Well, each voter makes their own individual decision. My personal feeling is that Kamala Harris is a much stronger message, and it's not simply because she has an Indian American background. Her message of trying to build up the middle class, to restore reproductive rights, to address gun violence, to make healthcare more affordable, to have an immigration system for this country that both emphasizes border security and channels of legal immigration. I think all of these resonate predominantly with the Indian American community in a very positive way. So for me, as an Indian American, married to another Indian American with two Indian American daughters who are going to be voting in their first presidential election this year, for me, this choice is very clear. And again, I think for the vast majority of Indian Americans in Pennsylvania, that will be the case in supporting Kamala Harris tomorrow in the presidential election.
So clearly, you are very optimistic about Kamala Harris's chances in the state of Pennsylvania. But Trump today also was conversing in Pennsylvania, and Kamala Harris was also going door to door in the state. Is there anything about the Trump campaign that makes you nervous or insecure?
Well, Donald Trump, has won elections where people did not expect him to. And he is really the only candidate in the last nearly 35 or 40 years as a Republican to carry Pennsylvania. And so certainly it is a real race here in Pennsylvania. Every poll indicates that. I see that in my district, which is a relatively balanced district among Democrats and Republicans. And so this is really going to be a very close race tomorrow. And what I have said to my constituents, what I've said to the Indian American community, certainly here in Western Pennsylvania, where I am, it's very important that you come out to vote if you are eligible and to make sure that your voice is heard. I don't think that President Trump's message is particularly a good one. I think that when he talks about tariffs, when he talks about that everyone wanted to see the rescinding of abortion rights, that simply is not true. And unfortunately, he's had a long history of telling lies as part of his political campaigns. And I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll see a good result tomorrow with Kamala Harris winning this election.
Well, but do you think that Kamala Harris will also be good for the India-US relationships? Of course, we've spoken to a lot of experts, a lot of political leaders, and everybody is saying that the relationship between India and US is not dependent on the outcome of this US elections alone, because there are various strategic reasons why the US president, whoever that it might be, would need to partner with India and continue the work with India. But Kamala Harris, even though she has Indian origin roots, for instance, on the issue of Kashmir, has not been particularly pro-India.
Yeah, we've seen over the last, 15, 20 years that the US-Indian relationship has blossomed quite a bit. And I think it really at its root is because the Indian diaspora here in the United States has grown and has matured in a way that it puts pressure on elected officials, whether Republican or Democrat, to maintain a good relationship. This year in Pennsylvania, myself, an Indian American state senator, and a Republican state senator were able to pass into legislation recognition of Diwali as a holiday within the state of Pennsylvania. That would not have happened except for the very effective advocacy of the Indian American and South Asian community. So I would agree that there's going to be a strong relationship between the United States and India, regardless of whether it's Harris or Trump. But I think that India, being the world's largest democracy and the US being the world's oldest democracy, there are a lot of shared interests. And when we look at small d democratic principles, that's far more embodied by Kamala Harris than by Donald Trump. I think the idea that we have elected governments that are accountable to the people and peaceful transitions of power, that's something that is much more embodied by Kamala Harris than it is by Donald Trump.
Well, it remains to be seen who is going to win in this election. Donald Trump is equally making attempts to reach out to India and partner with the country. So I think we'll just have to wait it out to see who wins tomorrow and who particularly wins in the state of Pennsylvania. Representative Venkat, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.